I do work for our studio now. My background's in statistics and analytics, specifically marketing analytics. I got this job working for our studio last year, and I told my friends about it. None of my friends know anything about R. They don't understand what that even means. I sent out an email to them, to a buddy out in the West who's a park ranger, and this is what he replied. He said at the end of the email, P.S., all I really understood from your explanation of your new job was shiny. Shiny things are good, so your job will be good. When people ask me what you do, I will say, he makes shiny things. They will nod in agreement and say that is good. So that's my life as an analyst. My wife is an art historian. She has no idea what I do either. She doesn't seem to mind that, surprisingly enough. I don't know what it's like to be married to someone and have no idea what they do day to day. I talked to another lady who said, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I do R and statistical programming. She said, I don't get that. And I was like, well, I do analysis. And she said, no, I don't. I do big data. She goes, no, I just don't get it. I said, well, I sit at a desk and type on my computer all day long. She goes, oh, I understand. So I think that's, part of being an analyst. On another note, it's been wonderful to see how much growth and excitement and development there's been in analytics. I've used a lot of tools. R is the one I keep coming back to, so it's near and dear to my heart. And so I'm going to talk today a little bit about Shiny and some of the things that our studio is doing, and do some live demos here. I need to keep track of... So the timer isn't moving. Does that mean I just have unlimited time? Is that the way that works?
Until people get hangry.
Okay. Oh, I'm up against lunch. I'm not going to mess with that. All right. Well, I'm going to take a note here of what time it is on my machine and make sure I plan accordingly. All right. So I mostly want to talk to you today about gadgets, and then another thing called Addins and the intersection between Addins and gadgets. But before I do that, I want to talk about HTML templates, get that out of the way, because I think they're pretty cool and useful, and I want to make sure people know about them. So there's 3 ways to build the UI. So first I'm going to say, most of the things here I'm talking about are going to be based on Shiny. If you haven't used Shiny, it's a web development platform for interactive apps built in R, and there's a UI piece and a server piece. Okay, so the UI piece has there's 3 ways to build that, and if you have used Shiny, you'll be familiar with the first 2. One is to actually use the Shiny packages, like Shiny and Shiny Dashboard, and this new one I'm going to talk about, Mini UI. And then the second one is to create your own HTML, but we've added a third one, and the third one is HTML templates, and that's really about taking a template that is already available to you and putting your apps into that template. So it goes back to that old saying, what is it, like great artists steal, I guess here. I'm encouraging you to steal your content, right, and insert your apps into it. The basic idea is that you're going to take, your index HTML, add a few things to the header, and then you're going to insert your Shiny items into the body using the curly braces. And on the other side of the fence where you're designing your UI, you're going to use this function called HTML template. It's part of Shiny 0.13, which came out in January. And you're going to rename the items with the equal sign as arguments into the HTML template function. So let me just show you basically how this is going to actually work in practice. All right, so here's a template that I stole off of WordPress. I've added the content here, and then if I come down here a little bit more, you'll see here's the plot, right, in the body, and then these other Shiny elements. And those Shiny elements are named here, plot 1, xcall, ycall, and cluster. So let me go ahead and run this app. Take a look at this. All right, so I've taken the template here from generic Education University, and I've put k-means clustering inside of this template. And then here's all the variables here that you can select from as a typical Shiny app. You can change the number of clusters, right? But instead of it just being a plain app or one that you have to format yourself, now you have a nice template that looks like it belongs to your institution. It's got the header, the footer, some nice JavaScript interaction, formatted fonts, everything's sized appropriately. And it looks good, right? I mean, it looks okay. It looks like something that maybe someone higher up in your organization would take seriously. Just make of that statement what you will. All right, here's another one. Same thing, I added the content here. This one's going to be a finance template. Again, I renamed the UI here. Not a lot of work involved to do this. And let's run this app. So again, real simple time series analysis. This is a really simple app, right? And you can kind of spice it up with a nice looking template. So if you have something that your organization uses, you can take these things and reuse them over and over for your apps. You can use them for your groups. It's meant to be lightweight, easy to deploy, and hopefully it will be useful to you. All right. Having said that, let's move on. Shiny gadgets. Shiny gadgets enhance your R programming experience. They're actually Shiny apps, right? So I'm not trying to confuse anybody. Our Shiny gadget is a Shiny app, but the use case is going to be different. These things are started and stopped by our users during the course of an analysis from inside the IDE. So you're not going to be hosting these apps. You're going to be running them from inside the IDE. Here's a simple Shiny gadget. There's two differences I want to point out here. The first difference is that the UI looks a little different than you're used to seeing in a typical Shiny app. That's because it was built with the Mini UI package, and the Mini UI package was designed to build Shiny apps in small places. I'm going to show those in one sec. The other piece here that I really love is the done button, right? So most apps don't have a done button. You don't let your end users go in there and shut them down. When I'm done at the end of the day using Google, I don't go in there and shut Google down. It's like, had it, bring it down, we'll do it tomorrow. So having a done button is a very important thing. And you think, well, what possibly could go wrong with the done button? Well, here you've got Ted fumbling for his recliner button, unwittingly instigates a disaster. And his button says, wings stay on, wings fall off, right? So you have to be careful what you do with a done button. And in this case, what it's going to do is it's going to give you a completely different use case for your gadget. Your gadget's going to be invoked by a user and then shut down, whereas Shiny apps are deployed. The Shiny gadget is going to be used by an analyst, whereas a Shiny app is typically used by an end user or a decision maker. And a Shiny gadget is going to be used for the programming experience, where a Shiny app is going to be used for communicating information. I'm going to show three different gadgets with three different use cases. All right. So this is a Shiny gadget I put together. I know one thing that I do a lot. The first thing I do when I get data is, I just want to, kind of process it, digest it, the old saying about, eat it, consume it, pass it through my lower intestine. That's what I'm trying to get with the data. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the data. And part of doing that is just slicing and dicing, looking at it, and transforming and maybe trimming some outliers. So I actually built a gadget that did just that, looks all the data is in a univariate case, trims some outliers, produces the code that I might do at the very beginning of exploratory data analysis. So this is a gadget. Notice it's a function, not an app necessarily. And I'm going to call it down at the end of the script and pass it into filters. So let me just run this. See what this looks like. So this is the Shiny UI here. Notice that the app is inside of the IDE. Now, the first time I saw this, I was like, how incestuous can RStudio be? It's like they've got two products, the IDE and Shiny, and now they're combining the two into one thing. I think the cool thing about this is that you can really program anything that you want into the IDE that isn't already there. So typical things that you would see around data imports or model designs or things that help wizards, all those things are now in your hands to build. So let me show you what this one does here. I can go here and select a column, do a little log transform, take a look at the descriptive statistics. That looks pretty good. Go to the outliers, say, okay, I want to trim this outlier here. So I'm just going to bring it up like this. And I'm going to say, I like that trim. I don't want that outlier, so I'm going to hit the output code. There's the filter code and dplyr syntax. That's great. I'm going to do a few more of these. Maybe I jump to another data set. Look at distance. Again, statistics. And I think, okay, well, this outlier here, that one's got to go too. I just want to tighten things up a little bit. I'm not saying that outlier is the big part of my analysis, but just go with me on this one, okay? And then I'm going to hit done. And you can see that it returns the code here for the outliers. So that could be really useful. Let me show you another use case for a gadget that I put together. This is for selecting connections for ODBC. So this helps you build connection strings for connecting to RStudio or to other databases through the RODBC package. I'm just going to run that. You see that I've got my SQL Server connection and my Postgres connection up here with the ports. I can type in a password, whatever I want, hit done, and it returns the connection string that I can put into RODBC. Now, I could put this connection string into the RODBC package as well and manage that. If you do that, you have to make sure that you get it absolutely right. So I thought I'll just do the connection string here, make it a little bit easier to share my code. But you might want to do that pure connection play to hide your password as well, and that's not hard to do here. You just pass it into the RDBC connect function. All right, so one third use case that I was looking at here, something that I've done a lot with my different teams over the years, is build these products that require a variety of different inputs, sometimes dozens. I think we've even broken 100, right, different inputs. And these things might run every week or every day, or maybe just when you need them to. Normally that's handled in a master file, right? So you put all the parameters in a master file and it kicks off to the other files, and that kind of orchestrates the jobs. That's all great. You can kick that off and organize that in a job scheduler, and that's all wonderful. But this actually gives you a chance to do something that's a little bit more human-centric. So here I've got this analysis of microarrays, and that's what this gadget is. Not too complicated. And then I'm going to source that gadget here. That's what the source command's doing. And then I'm going to read some data in, some microarray data, and I'm going to kick off the model. And this is not pretty, and it's not designed to be, fantastically pretty. It's a bunch of inputs, right? And the idea here is that, you can change any of these fairly easily without necessarily having to go into any of the code. So I can, check Will Coxon and center the arrays and hit done. And there goes my analysis. And I can take a look at that analysis here. Say, okay, well, I see this obviously, this loading has very significant effects. Let's take a look at a few more. Just change the loading. I changed the loading here with these other effects here. This command is what I wrote. Red is 17. And I'm going to go ahead and run that again. Take a look at that. Yep, okay, less significant, right? Way of looking at that factor is not nearly as important. And I'm just going to go ahead and run one more here, since it's has 3 factors. And you can pick out some of the significant genes for that factor as well. So the idea here is that you can build these gadgets that you can use to more easily manage some of these analyses that you might be doing repetitively. Okay, so those are 3 gadgets. We're going to come back to gadgets in a second, but I want to toggle over and talk about add-ins next. So an RStudio add-in makes the RStudio IDE extensible. It gives our users the ability to add their own features. So what can a feature be? It can really be anything. You can do code builder tools like we've seen, editor tools, integration with data and other tools, kickoff scripts or external jobs. Just highlight a number of those use cases for you. The thing that is required to build an add-in is you have to package up your script. So you have to take your R functions, you have to put them in a package, and then you have to add some metadata to them in this file we call addins.dcf. Add-ins can be interactive, or they can be non-interactive. So an interactive add-in is like a gadget that I just demoed that actually gets packaged up into an add-in. A non-interactive one doesn't have that GUI interface. It just runs in the background. And add-ins are obviously easy to share because they're packages. So I'm going to do a few add-ins here. I'm probably one of the worst at like writing messy code. I've gotten a little bit better over time, but most of the people on my teams like to I was going to say they tease. I call it teasing. It could be hazing or just character assassination, because the code that you see here wouldn't be unlike me to like go like quickly script things together. Because one thing I love about R is that I can just like go pound out 50, 60, 70 lines of code with no problem, and actually discover some really interesting things. So you might end up writing code that looks like this. It's kind of a mess. So our one of my colleagues wrote the format R package, which has a format function. And so here I've clicked on Addins and done format source. And this is going to take all of this code and paste it into format. And it's just going to make it look a little bit nicer. It's going to clean things up. Now, format's not perfect, but the reason I show this is because this shows you how there's really nothing stopping you from doing anything that you want to do in the source editor or in many other parts of the IDE. The format function is extremely easy. What I've done here is I've called the RStudio API package, which is a new package, and I've gotten the active document context, which takes all the source data. And then I run the format R tidy source function. Then I paste it all, I collapse it all, and then I put it back into the document source window. And that's it. In the add-in side, I have to add this metadata, so it's 4 lines, not too bad. I give a description, and notice that here I make it interactive equals false. And after that, I just package it up. I just hit the build and reload, and I'm good to go. Let me show you how I took the variable profiler that I showed a few minutes ago and turned it into an add-in. Didn't have to do much. At the bottom here, instead of returning the filter commands, what I do is I actually use the RStudio API to insert text. So if you remember, last time the filter commands went back to the console, but now the filter commands are going to go back into the source pane. So here's an example. I'm just going to load up a few data sets here to get started. And then I'm going to do a variable profiler. Okay. And I'll just do the same thing here, do log transform and trim the outliers. Okay. Going the wrong way. And output the filter. Okay. And then I'm going to do I'll just do another filter here on the same data. Hit done. And you can see that it actually pasted right in there. So this is actually even more useful because as I go through all my data, I'm just going through and making notes. Like this variable needs this transform, it needs these cutoffs, it needs to do this. And I can go back after I'm done with that exploratory phase and decide which ones are more important, which ones I need. There are other things I want to show you here. So right to wrap up, I'm going to pull in the question R package, which I did not write. I pulled off the internet. Allows you to do some fun things like you can do variable cutting. So I'm going to take the warp breaks and I'm going to pull in the breaks command. This window is a little too small for this resolution, but you can see that I'm going to create a new variable called breaks_rec. I'm going to choose how many breaks I want, which is nice. And then it gives me the code right here, and it gives me some output, and tells me what those breaks are going to look like when I'm done. Done on that. And one more here. We'll do, I liked the recoding one, which again, let's get the warp breaks. And I think it's tension here. So here, maybe I don't want to do low, medium, high. Maybe I just want to collapse those two into low and high. And it gives me the information here again. Okay. There's some other really cool add-ins online. There's this GitHub page that points you to a few of them. This GG Theme Assist is really interesting. My resolution is a little too small to actually show it right on the screen right now because it's such a huge app. But you can go in and tweak all of the parameters on ggplot2 in an interactive environment, and it will write the code for you for that ggplot2, which is a godsend. All right, so I started this talk by talking about a few different packages, just 3 packages. In reality, we have a lot of packages that are coming out. The velocity has been very great. This is a list of some of the things that we've done just in 2016, so the first quarter of 2016. Done a lot of work on Shiny, had a great release on RStudio Server Pro, other things in RStudio, not to mention all the open source packages that we're releasing. So I had to cherry pick a few here to enjoy, but it's really exciting to see all of the velocity coming out of the R area, and it's been one heck of a job to try to keep up with it, to be honest. But anyway, that's my talk, and I appreciate your time. So thank you very much. Thank you.